Hi, everybody. I'm here today with elders of the UU clergy community of the Rochester area. I have with me this morning Reverend Peggy Meeker, Reverend Dick Gilbert, and I'm Reverend Tina Simson. Now, Dick is recovering from a cold and his voice is a bit compromised, but I want to assure all of you he does not have COVID, and he's here with us today feeling better than he has all week. We hope our conversation offers you some guidance and support as we continue to face uncertain days ahead. It's no surprise that the combination of the pandemic, the national political unrest, and the local racism in the form of the murder of Daniel Prude and the subsequent protest and clashes with the police have created a perfect storm, especially for our community elders. We may feel isolated, stuck with little contact with friends and family, and unable to contribute in ways we normally would. We may feel ineffective and even useless and scared. I know there are days that I feel all these things. We are here today to offer suggestions and support as fellow elders and as clergy who have known you and this community for years. I will talk about the slippery slope of mental health that we all find ourselves on these days and what we can do to care for ourselves and each other as we navigate the uncertainty of the days ahead. Dick will talk about what you can do right now to support the causes in our community and nationwide. He will help us feel useful, even as part of the resistance during the pandemic. And Peggy will offer us spiritual support and guidance and sustenance for the days ahead. So stay with us for this important conversation. Our mental well-being is more important than ever these days. Now, I don't know about you, but I think about mental health concerns like black ice. We're used to that here in this community, but the scary thing about black ice is you don't know you're in trouble until you're on it, and then you're already slipping around. There are no playbooks on how to navigate these times, but there are things we know. We know that the pandemic fog is real. Some days you seem fine and you're able to concentrate, and other days you're just not able to remember anything. And the news is telling us the pandemic is slated to get worse. So I imagine the fog is going to get worse too. Isolation is also real and hard on our well-being. There are real reasons to be anxious and scared. It's not all in our head. Now, there are things we know that will help us tip the scales toward well-being. First, if you have a history of depression or anxiety, call your doctor or your therapist. This isn't time to tough it out. It's time to get the support we need. And likewise, if we have a history of addiction, it's also time to reach out for help. There are Alcoholics Anonymous online meetings, as well as NA meetings online. And there is another organization called neveralone.org, which will connect you with other people who are struggling and just looking for companionship around mental health concerns. If you're involved in AA or NA already, connect with your sponsor. That's a good way to stay on top of difficult situations. Have your prescriptions filled, pick them up for the weeks ahead. Make sure you have good, nourishing food to sustain you. This all may seem very logical, and yet when we're in that pandemic fog, it's hard to remember these things. There's also actions we can take every day to help us stay on top of feeling well and doing well. And sometimes we don't do these things. I know I'm guilty as anyone. The first thing I'm going to tell you is hard for us UUs who like information and to stay up to date, but I'm going to tell you, put away the news. The 24-hour news cycle is set up to sensationalize every bit of information. And frankly, right now, there's nothing new to know. And if there is, we will know it. It doesn't take spending 6 hours on your phone or your iPad or in front of the TV. Set time to watch it or read it, and then turn away from it. Fill your time with things that will soothe your soul and enrich your life. Music is a great way to bring equanimity to your life. Dust off your old CDs, make a new playlist. Read some fiction, something frivolous. Read poetry or literature, things that you know will enrich your life. The other thing that happens when we have emotional overload is that we are unable to think. The fog comes in, and you know what works is doing left brain activities, logical, methodical. I tend to fold laundry, but you can do puzzles, board games, word games, any left brain activity that allows your emotional side to rest. And then get outside. Even 15 minutes a day will make a difference in your whole body. If it's cold, put on something warm and even spend time in your backyard. Connect with friends, offer support, laugh, reminisce. If you're tired of Zoom, use the telephone. That's what it's for. And or write some letters, get out some cards, and connect with people miles away in a very old-fashioned but very life-sustaining way. And write down things in a journal, write your worries down. It is a proven way to ease your anxiety. You write it down, you put it aside, and let it go. The other thing is to feed yourself nourishing food. Now, I saw on Facebook this morning that Melissa Boyack from First Unitarian's Orange Sky wrote, "The best thing to do today is to stop by Fox's Deli and get some matzo ball soup." I think that's on my list. And then easier said than done is sleep well. Allow yourself to rest. If you find yourself waking in the middle of the night, check your caffeine consumption or even your alcohol use. A couple of drinks in the evening may help you calm down, but can also disrupt your sleep, causing you to wake in the middle of the night and have trouble getting back to sleep. Now, friends, unfortunately, there are some reports about the likelihood of civil disruption around the election. Now, although this likelihood may be low, it's important that we have a safety plan. Who will you call if you need help? Where will you go to be safe? How will you let people know that you are safe? Self-care is not an aggressive act. It is actually an act of resistance. Our well-being will make us a vital source for those on the front line when they are able to step back and the pandemic is over and we are able to step forward. And even in our isolation, there are important ways that we can contribute. I'm going to toss the ball over to Dick right now so he can share some thoughts about that during this time. Dick?
Thanks, Tina. Over the years, I have come to believe that politics, in a way, is a spiritual discipline. It's the art of the possible. And our principles continually call us to action in the world, from John Murray's work on separation of church and state in the 18th century to the present. Working for justice is an act of resistance in a time of injustice. It acts as a kind of spiritual therapy. And in this work, and despite our generally progressive politics, I hope we will become a prophetic voice, speaking truth to power, regardless of political party. As an elder, I can remember several such instances in the past through which I have lived. I remember marching with a kettle drum, beating it, when I learned that World War II had ended 1945. Bristol. I know exactly where I was when JFK was shot. I vividly recall the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy when I was a minister in Ithaca and chaplain at Cornell. And I recall the memorial service for James Reeb in Selma in 1965. And the memory of 9/11 is still vivid as I recall our opening the church for weeping and worship. Those were hard times that I remember well. We got through them and we're the better for it. There are, of course, no guarantees for our future, but our past augurs well that we will survive, and with a little bit of luck and a lot of work, we'll still thrive. We need to remember that democracy is a religious principle. Our fifth principle affirms and promotes the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our societies and in society at large. However, no matter how it turns out, elections are only part of what has been called the humdrum work of democracy. No matter the result, we must look through the moral microscope at our nation and ask, what now? Where do we go from here? If it goes one way, there will be need for grief work, then remobilizing for resistance. If it goes the other, there will be a brief time, I think, of relief and even celebration before we become advocates and hold our political leaders accountable for the promises they have made. And we will need to beware of Schadenfreude, a German word meaning feeling joy in another's suffering, remembering to take victory graciously and maintain connections with those with whom we differ. Along with advocacy, we will need to be healers of a broken nation. At the same time, our mission is to recreate that social capital that we need to build beloved community. This will be both a personal and a congregational task. For specifics, I call your attention to UU the Vote, sponsored by our own denomination, as well as many, many other opportunities that you should be seeing on your screens. Ultimately, as people of a liberal religious faith, we will become part of the loyal opposition, calling to account whatever powers that be, dropping the plumb line of justice over whatever actions are contemplated or completed. Well, we will need to discern the morals behind the headlines. Always, our actions will grow out of a spiritual foundation. For me, I will try to follow my mission, to grow a soul, to love and to be loved, and to help repair a broken world.
The other important part of well-being that we're especially concerned with is spiritual. How is your spirit these days? It can be hard to be an older person in the best of times, but right now we're experiencing all the stresses that everybody is feeling these days. Plus, we're especially vulnerable to COVID-19. Some of us are pretty active and some of us aren't, and some of us, including me, are needing to stay home and be safe, however much we might want to be out there doing things. How do we stay grounded during these times? How do we make peace with being more than doing? How do we make peace with all the questions and worries, the grief, fear, anger, despair? How can we be at peace even now? I don't mind telling you that I've been dealing with anxiety myself. During the first few months of the pandemic, it crept up on me several times. And then more recently, through the presidential debates, it escalated. What helped me get back to my quiet center was a simple breathing meditation. I thought I had been keeping up with my spiritual practices, but I had drifted away from meditation and I had forgotten how much it helps me. If you've never done it, it's as simple as just sitting and breathing. My practice is to focus on the out breath, which is kind of a release. And when I say focus, I mean give it a very light attention. You're just noticing it is all. And you keep on just noticing it. And every time you realize that you're thinking about something, you just notice that. You say, oh, there I am thinking about dinner again. Or now I'm thinking about that phone call. Or whatever it is, and then go back to your breathing. You do it gently, and don't reproach yourself for being distracted, because every time you come back to your breathing, it's a good thing. And the fewer words you use in your head, the better. Just let yourself settle into your body and into this moment, right here and now. And let yourself find your quiet center and feel the space that is there to hold everything. That spaciousness, however you find it and nurture it in yourself, is something the world needs. Many of us struggle to realize that our worth doesn't depend on our productivity. Our worth is inherent, first of all, and secondly, it has more to do with the energy that we put out into the world than anything else. Like that saying about how 50 years from now, people won't remember exactly what you said or did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. No matter your circumstances, if you live from your quiet center, that place that's big enough to hold everything you are feeling, then peace and kindness will go out from you into the world, and you will be helping us all. Like the 14th century Persian poet Hafiz said, this place where you are right now, God circled on a map for you. I hope you'll give this meditation practice a try and that it will be as meaningful to you as it is to me. Whatever it is that nurtures you, feeds you, avail yourself of it and stay with it. And know that you are not alone. We are holding you in our hearts, and we all are holding each other. In closing, I want to share one of my favorite Mary Oliver poems, When I Am Among the Trees, which speaks to this question of how we are in the world. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and they call out, stay a while. The light flows from their branches. And they call again. It's simple, they say. And you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. Thank you for being here with us. Take good care, and may peace be with you.